Well, happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to the Today Show. My gosh, 4 days gone by already this week. And tomorrow we'll have been broadcasting for 3 full weeks, every day of the week. Wow. I've never worn so much makeup in my whole life. Every day on the air. So, good morning and welcome to our VIP show. Very important people, voices of Indigenous people, voices of veterans. And on Thursdays, we feature our Indigenous communities, our disabled communities, our veterans communities, and any other community that wants to be here. But right now, that's our focus. Of course, that's because the Disability Channel hosts programs and employment opportunities for the disabled community and our veterans. And so that's our mother network. And so we dedicate Thursday to all of that. Just a couple of announcements. Thanking, first of all, Your Home TV for our partnership, and been amazing times. Also to Kathy Bell. I got to spend an hour with Kathy Bell yesterday. And when you're a guest on the show, the channel sends you out a letter and a gift from the channel, and Kathy's in charge of all that, and she does an amazing job. So kudos to Kathy Bell this morning. And let's see. Today, our giveaway for today, Nadzin and I will be giving a gift today for the Friday booty call. Not a booty call, but our booty, we call it. We're going to give away 2 seats to our upcoming event called the Recovery and Performance Summit. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. And I understand that Jay is going to come in and have a little visit with us later on in the show. So let's get started, because Nadzin DeGagne is my guest and co-host and colleague. And wow, she just has so much going on. But anyway, this is a topic today that we want to discuss: missing and murdered Indigenous women, and the pandemic around that, as Nadzin would call it, a pandemic. So I'm just going to bring Nadzin into the studio right after I share with you our 30-second drop down, where it has snowflakes going up, if you've ever seen such a thing. And this is an opportunity for you to advertise with us, sponsor a show, donate money to the Disability Channel. We're a nonprofit organization. So let's do our 30-second break and give me a chance to bring Nadzin into the studio. Good morning. Welcome back. This is the Today Show. Your host, Dr. Laurie Davis, and my co-host today, Nadzin DeGagne. You know, Nadzin, when you've been a guest, you were a guest on Monday. Yes. But when you get invited back, you're a co-host.
Perfect. So we're moving up in the world here.
You are, like 4 days, you got a promotion.
Wonderful. Well, keep working hard, eh?
That's right. That's right. So I would love it if you would just share with our viewers, because perhaps someone missed the show on Monday. But you know, Monday's show, when you were on, we had over 400 people download the show. And that's like super amazing.
That is amazing. That gives me goosebumps. I just think that's really neat.
Right. So let's just share a little bit about you with our viewers, your career path and what kind of work you did, and a little bit around that to get the viewers to get to know you a little better, because you and I are going to talk today about yet another pandemic that's going on. Mm-hmm. And there are many of them, and people are not aware of them. So over to you for some intro.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Laurie. Good morning. My name is Nadzin DeGagne. I come from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I am Algonquin from Quebec. The type of work that I have been doing, I've been a youth care worker for 17 years. I've worked a lot around the justice section when it comes down to that. So I've worked a lot with our youth that are going in and out of incarceration, getting in trouble with the law, making poor decisions. And then also working with adults as well. So working with ex and active gang members. I've done a lot of work in the courthouse. I've been an Aboriginal court worker. It's also where we piloted our program for New Horizons, which is the one that I speak of with our youth being in and out of incarceration. And I've just done a lot of work walking along with our people. I worked for the Indian Métis Friendship Center, and we were raised Roman Catholic. But I always knew that there was a part of me that was missing and a part that I just did not understand. So it's very common that it's not something that's spoken of, that we're Métis, that we come from this, that we come from that. So it was kind of like a little secret, as you mentioned as well, right, in the family. And when I entered the doors of the Indian Métis Friendship Center, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it's like your culture. It's your culture, Nadzin. So then I started asking questions and I started learning and I started divulging. And it's like that piece of me that I felt was missing was found. Mm-hmm. So I'm very passionate about the work that I do. And I'm also very passionate about serving our people and helping our people kind of rise up and step up. So just a little bit about myself.
Yes, excellent. And as we mentioned on Monday in our talk, and if you haven't seen Monday's show, I would just let everybody know right now, go in and watch Monday's show. It was so powerful. But one of the components that we bring to the table in any culture and in any situation, of course, is our self-worth component. So why don't you do a bit of a testimonial with regards to your work reclaiming your self-worth and how that has impacted you? And then we'll get into our topic today.
Perfect. The workshops literally saved my life. As I mentioned Monday that I wanted to be a surgeon, but then life situations started happening, and I always knew that I cared about people, and I always served them when I was younger. My mom would say, don't talk to strangers. I go talk to strangers, so didn't really listen too well on that part. But I just always knew that that's what I was supposed to do. So yeah, I started working into the field and realized, whoa, that saying where they say hurt people hurt people. Well, I was definitely a person that was hurting, and I wasn't really doing any justice walking alongside anybody that allowed me that gift and walking in their healing. So my cousin says, oh, Nadzin, you have to meet this lady. She is wonderful. And I was like, okay. And he said, Laurie Davis, you got to give her a call. Okay, perfect. So I reached out, we had a conversation, and what was it, that weekend or a couple weekends after, I was headed out to Buck Lake where you had your lodge, and I ended up taking reclaiming my self-worth. It was the best decision I could have made for myself. So when that saying is the best investment you can make is in yourself, that rings such truth. So I was able to come out there and I was able to let go of all the pains, the shame, the guilt, everything that I went through and all the choices that I made and all the life situations that might have just happened that I didn't know how to deal with. So when I went back to my field, I tell you, I was a force to reckon with. Mm-hmm. I poured that into my youth. It was always firsthand conversations, why they were making the decisions they were making. I took all the tools that you taught me, and I was no longer that hurt person helping hurt people. Now I was good. I had nothing connected to my past, and I put all that behind me. So I was able to walk forward with my youth in their healing in a proper way and be more effective at my job. So it literally saved my life. And then coming around here, the second round there was a matter of life and death. So these workshops are very inspiring, very, very motivational, empowering. And you get to invest in yourself and do the greatest work, because here I am pouring into everybody else. Well, why was I not important enough for that? Right. So it's just kind of relearning our thought patterns and understanding that we all have value and worth, and we all come to this earth with gifted and talents. So it's just getting back to that and unburying everything that kind of happened to get back to that true, authentic self of yours. I always say we're limited editions. There's nobody in this world like us, and it's our indifferences that we should love most. That's what separates us from the group. But those are also those gifts and talents that Creator gave us to be a part of this life, to be a part of this world, and to make the differences that we're supposed to make. So
absolutely. So just off the cuff, a question that I just thought of, actually, because you know that I've worked on and off reserves throughout Canada and the US for the last 25 years. And our materials and our workshops are very appealing to the Indigenous community. So from your side of the fence, having participated, why do you think that is? What's your thoughts on that?
I know that it's life situations that we have been through. So we speak a lot about residential schools because that is the truth. And that is what tore our people down. So these workshops have a way of unburying all the trauma. It has a way of letting us know when it is that we lost that value and worth piece, how old we were, and then all the feelings and emotions that are connected to. So when it comes down to these workshops and for our Indigenous people, it's huge, you guys. This is your opportunity to start healing. And when you start healing, we're allowed to step in and to be those role models for our communities, taking this back and realizing, hey, we have worth. You guys, you have to see this. And how empowering it is to maybe a couple people that go back to the community, but how much it can inspire our people and give us that power back. You know, give us our voices back. We all have voices, and we were silenced for years. And no longer is that acceptable, you guys. It's not acceptable. We are people. We are also here, and we have a lot of value and worth. You look at our culture, there's such beauty to that. There should be no shame in celebrating. And because we were taught that we weren't allowed to do that, really breaks down the core of who we are as people. So when it comes to these workshops, I mean, I push and I push and I push because the experience is just phenomenal. I didn't know if I would have been here today if it wasn't for these workshops, Laurie. And I don't know how effective I would have been if I didn't take them to help serve my community and to serve my people. So I can't go on enough about how much these workshops literally save lives. It gives us the opportunity to save our life and to move forward with those gifts and talents that we were brought with. So it's the empowerment of a community, never mind just me being out there as a worker, or, you know, the amount of power that it holds. And it's beautiful and it's sacred, you know, so I honor it every single day because I don't think I would have been here without them, to be honest. And you know that. So.
Well, thank you for that. And yes, we've had lots and lots and lots of results. You know, that's something else that we can talk about another time, you know, how they work. Maybe on a Monday when we do our self-care day, our empowerment day, we could share some details on how the workshops actually work. You know, that's an opportunity that we have as well. So thank you for that. We're going to take a little 30-second break because this is the time that I want to promote, be a voice for, and shout out for our channel, the Disability Channel. And the Disability Channel serves the disabled community, veterans, because a lot of our veterans come back disabled physically and mentally. So the original platform of the Disability Channel was to create an educational platform where, and sponsored by the government, both federally and provincially. Jay has done an amazing job getting that kind of financial support. And then they can go to the channel and learn how to be in the media business. How cool is that? So they learn how to be in front of the camera or behind the camera. And speaking of that today, they've also opened the doors up for any of our Indigenous members of our communities who are veterans, disabled, maybe like to have a career in the media, And that's all there sitting there. And they take 20 per semester. So I think they still have some seats for the next semester. So if this is something, and a lot of it's done virtually, so you don't have to travel to Toronto to do it. And so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you contact the disabilitychannel.ca and check it out, because I'm appealing now to our community members on our reserves, off reserves. If this is something that you would like to do as a career, then get a hold of the Disability Channel. And by the way, Jay also shared, he'll be in a little later to give us a hello, but he also shared that 85% of their graduates get jobs immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a demand. So I'm putting that out there today on our VIP show just to share that with you. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. And of course, we are open to receiving sponsorships, advertising. So if you have a product, a program, a service, and you'd like us to clip it out there during the show, then let me know. And you can be on the show and building your business. So here we go. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Today Show. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, your host, and my co-host today, Nadzin DeGagne. She was our guest on Monday, but I told her when you come back, you're a host. You graduate right away. So today we wanted to talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women and that movement, that awareness that's been out there. And you'll notice my little red dress. We're going to talk about that. And this was a gift to me from our MLA, Rick Wilson. He is the Minister of Indigenous Relations here in Alberta. And we had an appointment with him a while ago. And this was presented to me while I was there, because he was very instrumental in helping to raise the level of awareness and getting funding to do that, so that we can educate the public. What is it all about? So we talked about a pandemic. So what's a pandemic? Well, something that is out of control. We've all just been through one, haven't we, Nadzin?
Absolutely.
And you referred to this as a pandemic. So I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I do believe it's a pandemic. So many of our women and children are going missing, and not even just women, men are going missing as well. I remember when they were doing the inquiry a while back, and I had this feeling and urge to make a painting. I'm an artist, so I painted kind of like a forest with red dresses hanging, and I called it Walking a Path, Never Alone. So it was interesting on how it fell into place when we ended up back at work on the Monday. My boss says, "Hey, ladies, we ended up getting a couple seats to go to the Inquirer for the murdered and missing Indigenous women." I thought, oh, wow, okay. So we went there and we were able to sit there and hear the stories and listen to the families talk about their daughters missing, talking about the investigations. Some of it, the police work wasn't done proper. There were complaints put aside there. And these are the people that we're supposed to be walking with, right? These are the people that we're supposed to be putting our trust in. So yeah, when I was there, it was just to hear the families and just to listen to everything as a whole and everything that was going on. Something told me, bring your painting. So I brought it and I actually submitted it to them. So anytime that they go out to a community, our paintings and everything that were submitted actually go with. So it's something that I donated and gave to them because it just felt like everything was just connecting at that time. And it also gave me the understanding, and it gave me more clarity to really see what was going on in the world, what was happening. This was now being brought to the forefront. So it's not something people can ignore. if you're going to learn anything about us Indigenous people, we're loud. And we will make sure that our voices are being heard. So it was another way of bringing that forward, and the amount of people that sat there, the amount of support workers that were brought in for the families and for the workers that were doing the questioning. It's horrific. I get goosebumps right now, and part of me wants to cry, because you sit there and you realize that at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human beings, and we are the only kind that kill for pleasure. Isn't that sad?
Mm-hmm.
So you sit there and you think how a person could do this to another human being, and the atrocities, and just,
I know.
it's really upsetting. And not just that, for us to sit on the outside and listen to that, but to sit there and wonder what the families are going through. How is it that I can help them heal? How is it that I can help walk with them? How is it that I can support them moving forward? And if that means that you and I are having a conversation like this, then absolutely, we will do everything and anything that we can. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very connected to the missing side of things, because my first husband has been on a missing persons list since 1986. And chances are he probably was murdered as well, because there's never been a body found. And so one of the things that I talked to the minister about was the aftercare of the families when this happens to them. It's one thing to lose a person in your family, and you have a funeral and you have a ceremony and there's closure. But the problem when someone goes missing is there's no closure. And for years, I would be driving down the highway, and if I saw a man on the side of the road hitchhiking, I always looked in case it was Keith, in case that was him. So it never really goes away. And actually, I still dream about him a couple of times a week. So that spirit is there. And, I can totally relate to the aftermath of a missing person. And we want to talk about the women, though, why they are the targets, do you think? Because in the communities and in the culture, it's the Indigenous women and children that are the target here. The most frequent of missing persons, if we put the lists up, that would be the most numbered one, wouldn't it? So why is that?
I feel that part of that comes down to the breakdown of everything that happens. So our men are our protectors. That's what we're taught early on in life, that they're our protectors and our providers. That's our fire. Those are the men that are here to make sure that the women and the children are taken care of. So when there's a trickle, and when residential schools happen, and when all these things happen, it breaks down our men. It makes our men question their value and their worth, who they are, what they are in our community. How can I be the fire when I don't even have any fire left? So, I'm not saying that it's our men that aren't protecting us, but when we're used to having that, and women being there to help provide and to create that balance, now there's no balance. So in a way, now us women are on our own. And it seems like the separation between men and women, our men are walking alone and us women are walking alone. And that trickles down to our babies, that trickles down to our families. So I feel that that's what makes us women a target. And that lack of self-worth, and us being too vulnerable sometimes, and too trusting, and not knowing boundaries, not knowing how to protect ourselves in a way. So when all that is lost, I could see why it is that we're a target. We're an easy target. We're so broken down. We're so silenced. Sexual abuse happens often. So there's so many dynamics that come down to it. But I believe the big component is that lack of value and worth. So we're not checking our surroundings. We're not thinking that we're worth the time, or that we're not good enough. Sure, take me, whatever. And that's a really sad mentality to have. But we can also understand why it exists, right?
Right. Well, of course, and with the like what you're describing is a breakdown of the family unit. And not knowing what that even looked like, because for 125 years, 5 generations of Indigenous people lived in an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do you learn about being a mom or a dad or having a family after 5 generations of dysfunction being
Mm-hmm.
imposed upon me by the church, by the government, and having my children in an institution and calling it home?
Yeah.
Like, when you think about that, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. Turns my stomach.
I know. And you see, in the United States, they called them Indian boarding schools. Well, they had only lasted 40 years, not 125 years like here in Canada. So that's why our Native Americans were able to hang on to their traditions so much more readily than we could, because
Mm-hmm.
the length of time in those institutions was 40 years. And then the government threw it out and said, no, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So in Canada, though, I was shocked, Nadzin, when I came to the West. You see, the last residential school closed down in Nova Scotia in 1962.
Mm-hmm.
But the last residential school in the country didn't close down till 1996.
Yes.
And I didn't know that till I had a client at the lodge, young woman in her 30s, and she was there doing her work, and she started talking about what they did to her and her brother when they entered the residential school. And I'm going, because I'm from the East, and I'm going, what are you talking about? They went out years ago. No,
Yeah.
they didn't. I
Yeah.
was shocked. I was totally shocked.
Yeah.
So let's do a bit of statistics. I did do a little research, and of course, just for public knowledge, May 5th, that we just had it, is Red Dress Day. And this is the symbol, to know, to recognize that we're aware of what that means and what it's about. It's called Red Dress Day. And you mentioned your piece of art. I can't even imagine how beautiful that must have been, even though it was a sad uh, item that you were representing. And they chose the color red because culturally, red is the color to call home the spirits. And gosh, I wear a lot of red. I'm not sure why that is, but by nature, I'm always calling home the spirits. Maybe I'm calling Keith home. I don't know. And you know, the youngest missing and murdered Indigenous person, not to mention all the babies that were buried under those schools, that's another day, was 1 year old. And the eldest has been an elder, 83.
Wow.
I know. So what you know, what a statistic. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess age doesn't have anything to do. It's not just young women, is
No,
what.
it's all. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a sad thing. I mean, obviously it's a very sad thing, but again, when it comes down to our culture, family is everything. Our elders are there to be respected because they're the knowledge keepers. They're the ones that hold the teachings and the stories. And then it comes down right to the babies. That's the innocence. That's the new generation. That's, the ones that are going to bring balance, the ones that still need to learn. And it's sad that we don't have a lot of those teachings anymore to give them, because for me, I found that was a part of sense of self. I was
Mhm.
missing that component, and when I found it, my goodness, I've never been happier. I've never felt more connected. I've never felt more myself.
Right.
So just the breakdown in that, what a child represents when they come into this world for us, and what our elders mean as well. So there's
Right.
that respect component, the honor component of what they are,
Mhm.
and nobody else seems to have that. So
Right. No,
yeah.
that's correct. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, you had a personal story that I'd love for you to share, an experience you had when you went and visited that cemetery that day in honor of MMIW. Over to you. What were
So
you
it was
doing?
very, very interesting on how it happened. So I had a friend of mine and her daughter come up to the lake with me, and it was around Remembrance Day. All three of us are spiritually gifted. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to go to the cemetery to honor those that were lost in the war. And I remember walking into the cemetery, and of course it's darker in the evening, and it's just me, Jody, and Avery. And we hear kids laughing. I'm seeing spirits left, right, and center. And I remember standing there in the graveyard, and I'm looking across the street, and it's just really a row of trees. But I'm seeing about 7 spirits standing there, and I just see the aura. And all of a sudden, Jody looks at me and she says, Nadzin. And I was like, yes, my girl. She's like, there's 5 women standing here right now. She says, I'm supposed to tell you that they are murdered and missing. And that's why they're not in the cemeteries, because they haven't been found yet. Now, Jody didn't know anything about murdered and missing Aboriginal women. She didn't know anything about this. So keep in mind, I had just made this painting. I just felt that I had to paint it. This happens over the weekend. She brings that to my attention. And then when I head back to work Monday, my boss says, hey, by the way, we just happen to be invited to the inquiry. And that morning I had shivers, and I was like, oh my goodness. So it's almost like it ignited something in me. Like those women approached me to say help, because I do have that gift and ability. Mm-hmm. And really, that's when my passion in this just grew. And that's when my voice started coming out. And that's when I started looking into things. And when I went to that inquiry, I listened and I paid attention and I asked questions and I inquired myself. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting on how all of that fell into place. And that's what she brought forward. And then that's where we ended up being. So me bringing that painting, it's like all the pieces just came together. Mm-hmm. And I've never been so passionate or inspired since then. And a big reason why I walk hand in hand with my people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there has been a lot of that's fascinating. There's been a lot of work done to raise, from what I'm understanding, to raise the awareness, to get it out there that this is an issue, this is big, this needs to be looked after. But it is my understanding that there's really not any solid organization that's actually engaging in activities. And yes, they do their walks and they do their awareness events and so on. But as far as, stepping in and actually supporting in some way. And so that's something that I'm very interested in getting involved in, because there's so much work to do for the families after the fact. I mean, how many moms out there or dads, you're shopping and you just turn your back and your little kid disappears, the panic that comes over you, you find them 10 minutes later. But just imagine how that panic would be intensified if you didn't find them that day. And kids go missing every day now. Every day they're being abducted for what? And the same with our Indigenous young women. They're being abducted for the sex trade. Like, let's get real about this.
Yes, completely. When it comes down to creating a bit of change around the inquiries, there was, and maybe this is something we can talk about another time, Laurie, or have somebody come in and speak of, but the calls to action. So it was a big thing with the government, and part of it came from this inquiry of the murdered and missing Aboriginal women. This was brought forward, and with the calls to action, there were 42, or I'm not sure, and maybe I shouldn't say because I like to have my facts straight, but certain actions that were supposed to be taken moving forward, and it was actually written out and printed out and distributed. And these are things that might actually help with, but it's put on everybody else to be able to help out as well. So when it comes down to organizations, nonprofits, when it comes down to government, when it comes down to Indigenous affairs, when it comes down to, we all have a part to play in this. So it's not just up to our people to be able to do so. We're asking other people to rise up with us and to help make it happen. So we have conversations and saying, you know, we don't get angry and frustrated. If people don't understand, just ask us. And we're okay to answer you and let you know what happened. So maybe that's another one that we can talk about down the road, Laurie, is the calls to action, because that one's pretty huge as well. And I think that's one where it's written on paper, but now it's literally the action we have to put behind it in order to help out and start restoring a bit of balance, start restoring little things between the government and our people and whichever else. So I think that would be a good one to speak upon as well.
Excellent. I'd love to see that list. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Probably get a copy of that from the minister. He'd be happy to provide that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Excellent. Well, I see Mr. J just landed, so we're going to bring him in to say hello, our founder, Jay Stoyan. Good morning.
I don't think my volume's working.
Yes, it is. Oh, we can hear you.
No volume.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Hello there. Hello.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, no.
I'm downtown Toronto. I guess the connection is not right, so I'm going to go.
No, you talk. You talk. You talk. We can hear you. Oh, he left. Oh, no. He could talk. He could talk.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness sake. I could text him and tell him we could hear him. He could fill us in on the latest and the greatest. So, yes, if you're just joining us, we're busy. Oh, here he is back. Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning. I don't know what was happening there, but I thought I would jump out and jump in again. So how's everybody doing this morning?
We're doing great. We're doing great. We're having a great conversation.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm sure you are.
So what are you doing downtown Toronto today?
I'm down with the Sony guys. So we're just going through, we're creating my my television series deck. So I have all the interns here. So we're on page 3. It's really exciting. It's like mind blowing. Cool. It's mind blowing. We had to get the cover page. We had to get the company page, the synopsis. Now we're working on the episode. We're including my song. So it's really moving like at 100 miles an hour, it seems. So, and the kicker is this is all going to create jobs for our graduates. Right. I put that, I made sure I put that right in the deck. I said, if we can benefit any of our graduates with jobs, we're going to do it. And they loved it. Sony loved it. Everybody loved it. It's great. So we're meeting with the Canadian Media Fund next week, more for my channel, but we're going to bring in the new job development regarding my my book and television series. So yeah, so I just wanted to, thank you guys for having me on the show today again. Remember to join our 50-50 courtesy the Veteran Alliance House, right? That's great veteran guys supporting veterans, along with our GoFundMe. And we're having an exciting event come October with the good guys called Freedom Training. So all about supporting veterans. We're going to be having a fundraiser, giving some donations towards our program, so giving more opportunities. So I really thank you guys. I love the Indigenous addition to our platform. Like, this is so exciting. So hi, Leonard. if he's watching. So I just want to thank you guys. Really thank you for supporting the channel and doing a wonderful job. I see people are promoting it on Facebook and answering questions. So, and I did share. So I shared it on Twitter. I shared it on LinkedIn. I shared it on Instagram, and I've been sharing it on Facebook. So great job, ladies. I'm going to take off.
Okay. I did a big plug for the channel at the beginning of the show, attracting some Indigenous clients to our educational platform. So I'm going to promote that every time we do our VIP show as well.
Yeah, and this is great. I just want to let you know, so if anybody out there is looking for new investments, this investment through the television world, television series, and Sony and AMG and all the guys here, it's a great return on your dollar. So I'm just letting you know, this is not a handout. I'm not looking for support, donations, contribution. This is a business transaction where if you're an investor, there's nothing like investing in show business.
That's true.
So there you go. Okay, guys.
Have a
Okay.
beautiful day, Jay.
We'll
Okay.
talk tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Got such good energy, that guy. Love it.
I know.
Yeah,
And I can't
gets
wait.
me hyped.
He wrote his book 20 years ago. Flanagan's Life
Yes.
Inside an Irish Street Gang. And it's based on his own story. And he wrote the book 20 years ago. And now it's going to be a television series.
I'm so looking forward to it.
I know. How cool is that?
Very cool.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
cool.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, we're going to take a little 30-second break here and come back and wrap up the show. Today, we're talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women, but also men and children, not to be excluded. And there are reasons for that, and we're going to try and do something about it. How cool is that? All right. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Today Show here on the Disability Channel. And my co-host today, Nadzin DeGagne. And we're just chatting it up like we always do when we're together. And, Nadzin, I had a thought while I was playing the snowflakes floating uphill. You know how many Indigenous businesses there are right now? And how many artists there are and authors? We need to get them advertising their stuff on this particular day.
Completely.
Bring them on board. It's very cost effective to advertise, and they can get funding for that if they're building a business. So we should approach some Indigenous businesses and business.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some very large businesses too that could be sponsoring the show. So that just kind of hit me when we were playing our 30-second for today. Put that thought in my head. Don't be giving me any ideas, and don't be giving Nadzin any ideas, because we're like creators. We create. We build stuff.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I already made a note.
Okay. And you know who we're having tomorrow? I'm going to bring Virginia Clark back, because there's a piece of Virginia that the public doesn't maybe know so much about, and our friends don't know so much about, and that is that she is also an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And she creates things, and she's going to bring samples of some of her creations. And because our Friday show is a mixed bag of tricks. You might be an author, you might be a single mom, you might be an athlete, you might be an artist, and we just grab something for Fun Friday, because on Friday, of course, too, we draw for our prizes. And today, Nadzin, what are we giving away today? Do you remember when I mentioned it earlier?
Yes, ma'am. We're giving away 2 seats to our recovery summit coming up May 31st, June 1st, and June 2nd. So quite 18 speakers. And just motivation and hearing people's stories, what they went through and how they recovered. I mean, the amount of inspiration that's going to be in those 3 days, anybody's going to be lucky to be able to come and see that. And I'll be one of your speakers as well, too. So yeah, quite a gift, quite a gift.
Right. So if that's something that you win, then you can come to all of the event for the 3 days, or you can just come in and listen to a particular speaker that you want to hear. And everybody, they spend 15 minutes talking about their situation. So whether they had an addiction issue, or they maybe thought about taking their life, or they've survived cancer, or maybe came out of an abusive relationship. So they spend 15 minutes telling us a story about their situation. And then the next 15 minutes is, what did they do to get out of there? And this is why I wanted to host the event, because, and I came up with it in the first place, was because a lot of times when we're in trouble or we're going through stuff, we think we're the only one. Isn't that true? feel
Oh,
so
yeah.
alone.
You feel alone for sure.
Absolutely. And you're not alone. Many, many people would I mean, there's 8.5 billion people on the planet. I mean, you're not the only one. Okay.
Exactly.
So this helps us to see and connect with people who maybe are in similar situations. And then the last 15 minutes, we have the speaker talk about what their life looks like today. So it's an inspirational, educational, motivational. And the first one was hosted by Doug Smith, former NHLer, and myself. And we
Yes.
hosted the first one. And then I believe I hosted the first one myself. Then I invited Doug to join me. And this time, Dr. Ramin Modiri is our co host. So,
Perfect.
yeah, so we're going to, if you're interested, the tickets are $25, but we're going to give 2 tickets away tomorrow. And for $25, you can come and listen to any speaker, all of the speakers. And if you're interested, just let us know. Just email me at the Laurie Davis Show at gmail.com, and I'll send you the flyers and the speakers with their summary of what they're speaking about and when they're speaking. So you can have a schedule of where you may want to come in and listen. So that's our plug today for our recovery summit. And last time, one of our speakers, um, one of our Indigenous speakers actually, she brought her staff. Her whole staff came.
Wow.
So as part of their personal development, she wanted
Hmm.
she wanted them to be able to come in and hear. So it's not just individuals, it could be groups of people
Yeah.
that want to come. So if you have a staff that you need inspired, and we love to have, we try to include all cultures, male, female, two-spirited people. I mean, we're just all across the board. So you'll be able to connect with at least 1 or 2 people on the platform,
Hmm.
right?
For
And,
sure.
and
Yes.
let's put a plug in for you. What are you going to talk about this time?
This time I'm going to be speaking about my marriage and the abuse that I went through in the marriage, and some of the things that I faced in between, and exactly that, how I came out on top, what I ended up doing for myself. Vulnerability is the cloak that I'm going to be wearing because I have learned that it is strength. And our voices matter and what we've been through matters. So, like you say, Laurie, people are going to come in and we feel alone in this world. But people I know are going to very much be able to connect. We have 18 different speakers with 18 different recovery stories. So, yeah, the one thing I've learned is that vulnerability is a strength. And it's time to get the stories out. I didn't realize that I was living in a domestic violence relationship until I got out of it. And
Wow.
then I realized, okay, this was not okay. This was unacceptable. But a big part of that came down to me and my lack of value and worth. So I wish I
Exactly.
would have known a while back, but at the same time, the credibility is there, and there's many reasons I had to go through what I went through. And here I am today, inspiring and telling my story. So
Absolutely. Also, too, it's a wonderful platform. Another reason I wanted to create it. So many people have a terrific story, but they don't know how to tell their story. So this provides a platform for us to practice. And that's why I broke it down into the 3 segments. It gives us a formula for telling
mhm,
our story. And we have all recovered from so much. It could be anything, a disability, it could be a
mhm,
learning disability, it could be financial recovery. I mean, it could be anything.
for
And
sure.
I don't know how many recovery stories I have, but I've got a ton of them. And
Yeah.
I'm going to speak this time too. And one of my stories is how I came out of 2 failed marriages and found true love again
Mhm,
when I had given up on love. So that's going to be
mhm.
my story this month. And we run
Perfect.
this every 3 months. We run this. So just email me if you want more information, or you want to buy a ticket, or you want to buy a ticket and give it to a friend. Like, really, that's a good thing to do
Mhm.
too. I'm back. If you're a speaker and you sell tickets, you can keep the money. And what I'd like to see happen is I'm going to talk to Jay about bringing in some veterans and some of the team there and whatever, and they buy their ticket and the money goes right back to the disability channel. So this can be used, the recovery summit can be used as a fundraiser. And I belong to an organization called the Global Society for Female Entrepreneurs. I was at a directors meeting yesterday and I told them, if anybody from GSFE buys a ticket, that money goes directly back to GSFE because it's a nonprofit as well. So it's a win, 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 win. And every speaker donates a gift. So there's prizes. We always have prizes because prizes are right. Okay. Well, you know what? Our time is up. I'm going to turn the mic back over to you for words of encouragement for anybody out there that's listening to the show today. Anything that we said. The only thing we ask is that you share the show, because if you shared this show, that might really help somebody.
Completely.
Over to you, Nadzin.
It would be that we have voices. Creator gave us voices for a reason, and I know that some of us feel silenced. I know some of us feel that when we speak, we're not good enough, and it's really sad that, you know, that's what's been broken down in our communities. So if I can say anything, I've said it in the beginning, the best investment you're ever going to make is in yourself. And yes, we have to go through the nitty gritties. And yes, we're going to pull the Band-Aid off and we're going to get to the core. But you owe that to yourself, because the drugging and the drinking, and I come from that as well, is not supporting us moving forward. And, you know, we're sitting there numb and we're sitting there quiet and we're sitting there stuck and silent. And that's not okay. So I ask you guys to step up. I ask you guys to step up and use your voices. You know, use the vulnerability, wear it as a cloak, tell your story. Yes, it's going to hurt, but the more that we tell it, the more that we heal. And to realize that you have so many people here willing and ready to walk with you, because we see you. We know your value. We know your worth. But until you can see that yourself, the change isn't going to happen. But I can guarantee you it's worth it. And so are you. So take the chance, take the opportunity to heal, because it's beautiful. Life is beautiful on this side. And I'm somebody who's been there. So
thank you. I'm not going to say anything other than I'll see everybody tomorrow. That was beautiful. Thank you.